Hey everyone, and welcome to the Food, Fitness, Finance Fun Blab. My name is Kirsten, and I'm your host. And each week I will bring you a blab about either food, fitness, finance, or fun. And my goal is to always have a guest, usually an expert on one of those topics, and usually someone who is going to be answering all the questions that I get from you guys in general about these subjects. So today, I do not have a guest. My guest that I was going to have could not join us last minute. So our topic this week is food. And one thing that I've been getting a lot of, because in one of my Facebook groups, I have a general support group for Facebook for health and fitness. And one of the things we do every week is a nutrition challenge. And it's just a different thing every week to help get each person on track with healthy, clean eating. And then it all culminates in a clean eating challenge the last 2 weeks. So it's 7 fitness challenges and then a clean eating challenge for 2 weeks. And this week we're on the Avoid Dairy or the Dairy-Free Challenge. And this is one of the hardest challenges for people. So I had a lot of people struggling this week and asking, how do I do it? What are substitutions for this? Why is it so hard? So I thought, hey, we're doing our dairy-free week. I might as well talk a little bit about how to stop eating so much dairy and make it easy for you, because if it's hard for you, you're not going to do it for the rest of your life. In order to maintain something and make it a habit, it really has to fit in with your lifestyle and it has to be easy. So I have some easy tips to helping you quit dairy. So why do you want to quit dairy? Usually most people want to because it makes them feel like crap. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm lactose intolerant. I have a dairy allergy. It hurts my stomach. It makes me feel bloated. It makes me phlegmy. It makes me break out. It makes me get rashes on my skin. So those are some outward things that people notice when they eat a lot of dairy. And some more inward things that we don't really notice that much is inflammation. So dairy is a very highly inflammatory food. And so eating a lot of dairy exacerbates any issue that you have in your body that is caused by inflammation. So, for example, I'm an athlete and I work out a lot. So I like to recover really quickly so I can work out day after day after day after day without having to take rest days. And when your joints get inflamed, something like dairy isn't going to help you recover quickly. So since I quit eating dairy, I have recovered a lot more quickly in my training and my racing. So I used to, if I would go out and run 20 miles, like if I was training for a marathon, I'd go out and run 20 miles. I'd come home, I'd eat a large pizza. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm such a rebel, I'm going to eat a large pizza. I truly thought that was a good recovery food for me because it had a good combination of carbs, protein, and fat. And that's all I knew about. That's all I cared about. So I would eat a large pizza. I'm like, okay, good. I replenish my calories. I replenish my carbs, protein, and fat. I'm ready to go. And I'd be sore for like 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, depending on how good of shape I was in at the time. And so let's say I was sore for 3 days. So I kind of swam or rode my bike or did something else, but I couldn't run again for 3 days because my muscles and my joints were all really sore. Whereas now when I go and run 20 miles, I can run the next day. And before I thought it was normal, so I didn't think anything of it. So I didn't stop eating dairy to help my body recover more quickly. That was just a byproduct. That was just something that happened unknowingly. I wanted to stop eating dairy because I didn't want to drink milk because of the dairy industry and cows and animals. That was the main reason I wanted to stop. So a little bit of background is I became a vegetarian when I was 8. So I stopped eating meat when I was 8 years old. I just didn't want to eat animals anymore. And then I continued to eat eggs and drink milk and eat dairy because I didn't know as a kid, you see the cow, you see the burger, you're like, oh, they kill the cow to make the burger. But I didn't equate any harm done to animals with eggs and dairy, because I was like, oh, well, chickens lay eggs and cows make dairy. So I didn't think anything of it. And then about 10 years ago, I read the book Skinny Bitch, which is an awesome book if anybody wants a good, like, no nonsense, no BS guide to good health. And they just brought up some issues that I had never thought about, like, we're the only species drinking another species' milk, or cow's milk is designed to, it has the growth hormones and everything to take a little baby cow into a big cow, not like, we don't want those hormones in our body. We don't want to be grown into a 1,000-pound cow. And just some things like that I hadn't thought of. And when I started thinking of those, I was like, oh, I don't want to drink milk anymore. And it took me, that was 10 years ago. I only became 100% dairy-free a little over a year ago. So why did it take me 9 years? The same reason that almost everyone in our group is struggling with the no dairy challenge is because I loved cheese. So I not easily, but I gave up milk pretty okay. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard. It was just like I started, I loved cereal at the time. And so I started drinking almond milk in my cereal, and I liked that. So it was fine. I didn't miss milk. And then the only time I had milk was once a week. My husband and I would make a pan of brownies and grab a gallon of milk and take 2 forks and watch movies, eat our brownies, drink our milk. So after a while, that was the only time I had milk, was with my brownies. And that was maybe the last time I did that was like 4 years ago, maybe. So, and that was the only time I had milk. So I was like, well, I don't have to have milk, and I probably shouldn't be having these brownies either. So one thing it made me realize is that a lot of times we drink or eat something because it's associated with something else. So I used to love Doritos, like Cool Ranch or nacho cheese, whatever. I love Doritos, but I only loved them when I was drinking a soda. So neither one of those was a good habit at all. So I'd go to the gas station and I would get a bag of Doritos and I would get a soda. If I went to a gas station and they were out of soda, I wouldn't want a bag of Doritos. If I went to the gas station and they were out of Doritos, I wouldn't just want a soda. I wanted the soda with the Doritos. So something to think about when you are trying to give up foods that you don't want to eat or drink anymore is, when do you eat or drink them? What are they associated with? And can you make a substitution or just get rid of that association altogether? So just something to think about as we're going through our tips. So essentially all I was down to was cheese. I was done with milk. I was drinking almond milk if I wanted milk, but eventually I just quit eating cereal because cereal is pretty non-nutrient dense anyway. So I was like, oh, I'll just quit eating cereal. And so there wasn't really a situation where I would need to drink milk. And then I started, so 10 years ago, if any of you guys ever tried substitutes like cheese substitutes, sour cream substitutes, stuff like that, 10 years ago, they were all disgusting. So basically your choices were soy or rice back then. And they were either weird textured or weird flavored, and it wasn't a good deal. Well, as the years progressed, thank goodness, they started coming out with much more delicious dairy-free options, so dairy substitutes. So that is another thing. So keep in mind as we're going through these steps, that's another thing that is has improved a lot. So if you haven't, maybe a couple of years ago, you're like, oh, I'm going to try this dairy-free cheese, and you're like, oh, it's all like powdery and kind of grainy. They've come a long way. So so I started doing some substitutions, but I never could give up. I thought I could never give up like block cheese. So when I was stressed or overwhelmed or anxious, I would take a block of cheese and I would cut off pieces and just eat the cheese. And I loved it because it was hard and it was creamy and it was cheesy. And I would drink it with a soda because I love cheese and soda together. And I thought I could never give that up. And then the other thing I thought I could never give up, my very favorite meal on the planet, and it still is saag paneer. And at the time, I didn't know of any restaurants that made vegan saag paneer. And my very favorite restaurant in the world did not make vegan saag paneer, and they have the best saag paneer on the planet. And I tried to make saag paneer in my kitchen 20 times, and it was never even like, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't like good. So I was like, well, I can never give up saag paneer, and I can never 100% give up cheese. So a few years ago, I started this dairy-free challenge. It was 1 week out of the 9 weeks that we do our challenges. And each time I would try to go more days without dairy. So, that first I'd be like, okay, my goal is 2 days out of the week without dairy. And when I made the 2 days, the next round, 9 weeks later, I'd be like, okay, I know I can go 2 days. Let's go 3 days. Let's go 4 days. So there were times where I easily made the 7 days after a year of just day by day. But at the end of the 7 days, I was like, oh, I'm going to go get some saag paneer, or I'm going to go eat a block of cheese. So I still was not giving it up completely. And there were even times in the year before I became 100% dairy-free, there were times where I would go 3 months or 4 months, but then I always ate something dairy. So here is where we're at. Here is what I want to help you guys with. If you want to give up dairy or anything, you could do this with anything you want to give up. It doesn't have to just be about dairy. Here's my tips. Here's what I would suggest doing. First of all, number one, take out the things that are easy first. So for example, there are breads. There are like loaves of bread that are made with dairy, that have whey in them, or that have, skim milk in them, or something dairy in them. There are loaves of bread that don't have any dairy. And for the most part, I'm sure those loaves of bread taste the same. So giving up dairy in your bread is no big deal. You can't really taste it. It's no big deal. So start with those things that are no big deal to you. So that's one example. Another example is crackers. Like there's a lot of chips and crackers and snacky things that are made with whey or made with a dairy byproduct. They don't really need to be. They're not a dairy product. They just have like maybe the seasoning is dairy. And so read the ingredients if there's a dairy product in there. And now the great thing is they have to mention if there's a milk product in there. So it'll say allergens, and it'll say whatever, wheat, soy, milk, peanuts, like whatever's in there. So it'll say if something in there is dairy. So pick the crackers that don't have the dairy in them. They're still delicious crackers. They still taste good. There's so many products that they just throw dairy into that don't make it. They're not a dairy product. They just throw a dairy byproduct in there. So start with things that are easy. Then when that is easy, when you can look through, every day, read the ingredients, look at what's in things. Then you can start making, step 2 is to start making substitutions. Now, here's the thing about substitutions. You can't expect a substitution to taste, smell, feel exactly the same as the original. If it was exactly the same, it wouldn't be a substitution. A substitution is something, it's going to be a little bit different. So when I first started thinking I didn't want to drink milk, I tried soy milk, rice milk. I don't think almond milk had come out yet. I just tried soy milk and rice milk, and I did not like either one. I wanted them to taste like milk, and they don't. I wanted them to feel like I was drinking milk. I wanted it to be the same color as the milk, but they weren't. So you have to get that out of your head. It's not going to taste the same. It's not going to feel the same. If you want something so here's the other thing is you have to think about, do you want something that makes you feel the same way? Or do you want something with the same texture? Like, what is it about that food that you love? Like, people say, like ice cream. People are like, oh my God, I love ice cream. What is it about the ice cream? Is it the smoothness? Is it the thickness of the flavor, like the richness of the flavor? Is it the sugar? Because it could just not even be the milk part. It could be just you like the sugar. So think about what that food, so you're done with all the easy foods. Now we're working on the harder foods. What about that food is it that makes you want it and love it so much? What I found when I was going through this is mine was more of the emotion or the feeling the food gave me, not so much the flavor or texture in my mouth. So I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it is the flavor and texture. Maybe it's the emotion. Maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's what it does for you. But whatever it is, figure that out. And then you want to find something that does a similar thing for you. So, for example, when I was giving up diet soda, so I used to drink diet soda like a mad woman. Like, it was disgusting. I would drink at least a 6-pack a day. And it was usually Diet Mountain Dew, which I hear is one of the grossest as far as health. And people are like, oh, just drink carbonated water. And I'm like, ew, that sounds disgusting. And I tried it. Disgusting. Oh, drink flavored carbonated water. Oh, that was disgusting. Like, everything I tasted was gross, and it didn't give me that same feeling of that I was drinking soda. So now, so then I found this natural soda, and it had Zevia in it, and it's all natural. It doesn't have like caramel coloring or anything like that in it. And so I started drinking that instead of the diet soda. And it helped because it gave me that same feeling. So it was easy once those were more readily available, because now you can get them at almost any grocery store. They're Zevia. I actually have one right here. Zevia. You can get them at almost any grocery store. Now they're easy to come by. And when I travel, I just bring them with me. Like, instead of stopping at the gas station, getting a Diet Mountain Dew. So find something that makes you feel the same way, and that has a similar texture, feeling. It could have a similar taste. It's not going to be exact. Just know in your head it's not going to be exact. And then start trying those. If you want suggestions, reach out to your vegan friends. Reach out to people who have gone through this process. I've literally tried every non-dairy cheese, non-dairy sour cream, cream cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, ricotta. Like, I've tried them all because I was a super cheese addict and I wanted to find something that was just as good for me. So I was doing well with finding like sour cream and cream cheese, and even like soft cheeses that would melt, like if I made lasagna or enchiladas or mac and cheese. I was a huge mac and cheese fan. And so I found some soft cheeses, but I still didn't find any hard cheeses that I liked. And this was when I was like, I would go 3-4 months without eating any dairy. And then all of a sudden I would just eat like a block of cheese because I wanted that cheese. So that's step 2, is to start experimenting with some substitutions, but no, they're not going to be exactly the same. They're going to be similar. Look for something similar. And we are really lucky right now because there are amazing hard cheeses. Daiya just came out with a hard cheese, and I used to like their soft cheeses because they melt really well. They just came out with hard cheese. Field Roast has the best hard cheeses. And then you can there's so many recipes out there now that you can make your own hard cheeses, order them online. Like, it's pretty awesome now. And then as far as ice cream, you guys, cashew milk ice cream is like hands down the best ice cream. And I used to love ice cream. Frozen yogurt, ice cream, frozen yogurt. And I mean, I like the cashew milk ice cream even better. And I like the coconut ice cream. I started with that, but, and that was pretty good. But when they came out with the cashew milk ice cream, I was like, oh, this stuff is amazing. So, so they have a really good dairy substitutes now, you guys. So get out there. And then they also have, because like I said, I love mac and cheese. That's like a huge comfort food for me. It was really hard to give up that. And so I would just make my own mac and cheese, but I wanted kind of that old school, like Kraft mac and cheese feel, because that's what I grew up on. And now they make amazing gluten-free and vegan boxed mac and cheeses. Daiya makes a good one. Earth Balance makes a good one. They're like the same Earth Balance. You open the packet, put it in, add the vegan butter, add the vegan milk. It's exactly like the Kraft. So check some of those out. If you live in a small town, I live in a really small town, and a lot of small towns, they'll order things if they know you're going to buy them. And if not, almost everything you can buy online. You can buy it on Amazon. You can, get stuff online now too. So no excuses. So the first step is give up the easy stuff. Get rid of the easy dairy, the dairy that's just hidden in your stuff that you don't even need. Number 2, start working on some substitutions for the harder things. And then the third thing is have a big enough reason why you don't want to eat dairy so that when things do come along, it's easy for you to say no. So I had a reason, but I think it wasn't like a big enough reason because I was still like, oh, Saag Paneer, I'm in. Which, by the way, there's 2 restaurants within an hour drive of me that make really good vegan Saag Paneer. Well, it's not paneer because paneer is cheese, but it's vegan saag. They make it with coconut milk, and it's super delicious. Unfortunately, my favorite restaurant doesn't make it vegan yet. I'm still holding out hopes for that. But so when I go to that restaurant, I just get something else. And then when I go to the other 2 restaurants, I get the vegan saag. So that kind of like took my edge off of, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get to eat saag again. So back to step 3 is figure out why you want to quit whatever you're quitting. Figure out why you want to give up dairy. Because if you don't have a good reason, it's never going to work, especially if you were like me and you were addicted to cheese and you love cheese. If I didn't have a big enough reason, I would still be eating cheese. But the more I read about the dairy industry and the, farming industry and stuff like that and how they treat the animals, that added fuel to the fire of why I don't want to eat dairy. And then when I was seeing how amazing my body responded to no dairy, my skin cleared up. I didn't have any stomach issues anymore. I'm recovering really quickly from my long, hard workouts. Oh my gosh. I was like, that's not even worth it anymore. And before I justified it because I was like, oh, well, if I have it once a month, then I'm still, I'm not going to break out from eating dairy once a month, or I'm not going to, have digestive problems from eating dairy once a month. But so I had my 2 reasons, my physical reasons for health reasons, but also my just ethical reasons. I didn't like the way that the animals are treated. So I had 2 whys compounded on each other. And an important part of this, when you figure out your why, is getting support and surrounding yourself with people who understand what you're doing and are here to support you. Because if I had people like, oh, just taste this. Oh my gosh, this cheese is so good. You have to taste this. I would be like, okay, because I loved cheese. So tell people what you're up to. Tell them this is important to you. Tell them why you're doing it. Tell them I don't eat dairy anymore, so that they're not trying to force feed you dairy. And if they argue, so I used to just tell people I didn't want to eat dairy. Like, it was a lot of ethical reasons. It was mainly ethical, obviously, because I became a vegetarian when I was 8. But it was mainly ethical, but that was harder for me to explain to people, because people would come back and be like, well, what about the family who treats their cows well and sells their milk on the side of the road and whatever? Like, I can't argue with that. I don't know enough about every dairy farm on the planet to be able to confidently be like, well, this, here's all the statistics. And I don't want to learn that. It's just a feeling I have. It's just something inside me doesn't want to hurt the animals. So it was easier for me to say, oh, my body doesn't like dairy, because they can't argue with that. It's my body. So it was easier for me to say it was for health, but it was primarily for my ethical beliefs and then secondarily for health. But both compounded onto each other, made it a lot easier for me when I realized what I really wanted. So get support. The other thing I love is that I have people that I look up to who are vegan. So I have, podcasters I listen to, or, whether it's for health, because there's a lot of, great athletes right now out there that are eating vegan. And then there's a lot of great people doing great things for the environment and they're vegan. So just listening to podcasts, reading books, reading articles, stuff like that for people, like-minded people, is super helpful in this third step, in the final phases. Because once you have the easy stuff out, and then you have some substitutions for the harder stuff, and then you solidify your why, it's just those little things every once in a while. So before the last time I had dairy, I hadn't had dairy for 3 months. New Year's Eve was coming up. Every New Year's Eve for the past few years, I do a 5K, and then right after the 5K, I go to my favorite restaurant and I pick up dinner for me and my husband. I bring it home and we eat dinner and watch movies and whatever. So every year I get my saag paneer. And last 2 years ago, I hadn't had dairy for 3 months, but I knew I was going to have it on New Year's Eve. And I was really conflicted. I was like, do I just do it? This is what I was planning. This is what I always do. I know I'm going to love it. And it's so good. It's so delicious. And I was so excited for it. So I wasn't like mad at myself. I knew I was going to do it. I was already planning on eating saag paneer on New Year's Eve 2 years ago. So I get it. I bring it home. I eat it all up. It's delicious. It tastes so good. But right after, I was like, you know what? I didn't need that. Like, it was good, but I didn't need it. And I'd gone 3 months without eating dairy. And I ate it and I was really bummed. I wasn't mad at myself because I chose to do it. And I wasn't, but I was just bummed. I was like, you know what? I was vegan for 3 months. And then I ate this and it was delicious, but it didn't fill me up emotionally the way I wanted it to, because I was excited about being vegan. So that was it. I knew right then and there that I was like, that's definitely the last time that I'm going to eat dairy. And since then, it hasn't been hard. Nothing's been hard. I made the decision. There's so many great, like I said, there's great substitutions. I have mac and cheese once a week. I make these amazing vegan burgers with cheese, and my husband loves them and he's not vegan. And I use almond milk for my chocolate protein shakes I have in the morning. It's delicious. Like, everything I have now is so good. There's nothing I miss about dairy at all. And so it's been a little over a year. It's been a year and a month, and I feel amazing. I have no stomach problems. I used to have such bad digestive and stomach problems. I used to have horrible skin problems. Everything on my body itched all the time. And I am recovering so quickly. I'm on a bike streak right now. I biked 105 days in a row. I run a lot. I swim a lot. I feel better than I did 20 years ago. And so I'm really happy with my decision. And I really want to help anyone who wants help with this. So if you're wanting to give up dairy or anything that you don't want in your diet, I want to help you do that, because it is such an amazing feeling to not have that hanging around, something you don't want hanging around that you can't get rid of. It's called an addiction, and it's hard to get rid of. So I would love to help you guys. Please reach out. My website is foodfitnessfinancefun.com. I know that's a lot to remember, foodfitnessfinancefun.com. I do have a weekly newsletter. I post an easy vegan meal and a fun workout and some personal growth, an article, stuff like that. If you want to get my newsletter, just text FFFF, 4 Fs, to the number 22828. And I will post this recording and post all that information. And I hope you guys reach out to me. And I would love to know about your journey. And if any of you guys know anyone with an awesome food, healthy nutrition, food journey, I would love to interview them next month for my blab. So get me in touch with them. And I thank you guys so much for being with me here today. This was such a blast. I will see you guys next week for fitness. Talk to you soon. Bye.